All right. I think we are rolling and ever 100% now. Okay, there we go. Okay, guys. So thanks so much. I know you guys were listening to us chat, but thank you so much for hopping on a Thursday evening, almost the weekend, which is always, at least for me, an exciting time. So tonight we have the privilege of hearing from Danielle Burt. So Danielle is a chemistry teacher. And I don't know if you guys have kind of dug into the color personalities yet. Maybe you've heard about them, maybe you haven't. If you haven't, you will. But Danielle is what we would call a green. So she's somebody who is really interested in the science and the research and, all of the nitty-gritty details that most of the rest of us just don't pay a whole lot of attention to and don't bother looking into. But it is, we're just very fortunate to have that asset on our team because the science is incredible. And so Danielle and I met we went to the same church and we're in the same Sunday school class. She and her husband were living obviously in town at the time, but since have moved. She has a little boy, Caden, and is very pregnant, and hopefully she'll make it through this training without having to give birth. But no, just kidding. Anyway, but so what's funny about, I was thinking about what I was going to say and just, about you and how I was going to introduce Danielle. And I think what's interesting to note about Danielle is, so Danielle was one of those people that I reached out to and had no idea what was going to happen. Like, it was kind of like a crapshoot, like a shot in the dark. We had never talked about Plexus before. I had no indication that she had, ever even paid any attention. I hope this doesn't sound bad, but that she had ever paid attention to, me posting about Plexus on Facebook. She had already moved at this point. But I just kind of took a chance and sent her a message about it. And I think I had invited her to an online sip and see, I think is what, if I'm remembering right. And maybe,
Yeah.
Okay. Total crapshoot. And she actually not came, but logged in and listened and joined. And so I was she's one of those people that joins your team that you never thought in a million years was going to join your team. So I'll kind of let her tell you a little bit about her experience with products because it's pretty incredible. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Danielle. Thanks so much for just hopping on tonight. And I know that just last thing I'll say, sorry. This obviously is going to be, a lot of details and a lot of science, and it might totally go over most of our heads, but the main thing that I hope you get out of this is just to build your belief, if nothing else, to build your belief in these products because they really are truly incredible the way they're formulated. So, you can take a bunch of notes if you'd like, but if you feel like you're, getting lost, that's okay. I just know that Danielle has so much knowledge about these products and really have been dying to get her to share that with you because of how incredible they are. So, all right, Danielle, go ahead.
Evening, ladies. I don't know if there are any gentlemen. Well, welcome, I guess. Sarah and I met at church. And when she messaged me initially, I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting, I guess. I was actually I was a non-believer in supplements, period. It just sounds like a very expensive way to make very expensive pee. And that's just from I have a degree in biochemistry. I graduated from UC Merced with my degree in chemistry with a biological chemistry emphasis. And the whole supplement idea, when I was going through it and everything, your body does not, most supplements rarely absorb. And I had tried it and actually was told by my doctor that I should not take it because it was working my kidneys too hard, like any supplement, period. And this was a while back when I was still in college. And so just signed off supplements because they just make expensive pee and make my kidneys mad. So when Sarah contacted me, I'm like, you know what? I'll just go see what this is about, and did a lot of research on my own on the back end. And I actually signed up not for, like, the weight loss thing was like, hey, that might be nice. But when or the energy, that might be nice. She was talking to me about, I asked more about the bio cleanse because I wanted to poop like a normal person. And so that was the product I signed up for, but definitely over time, learning more and trying more, have become a big fan of the product. So we're going to talk about the triplex today, all three, and only small aspects of them. We aren't going to dive into every single little ingredient because, sweet Jesus, there's not enough time for that. And then we're going to look at just a little bit of the X Factor Plus, which actually what we're going to look at in the X Factor Plus is actually in the X Factor 2. So yippee skippy. And then one that I have not tried yet, but through my research, definitely going to add it to my wish list soon, is Vital Biome, and and a very surface level kind of glimpse at why it is such a good probiotic. So without further ado, if while you guys are going, I know that there's like a way to do the chat. We'll use that as the parking lot. So if you have questions or whatever things that you would like me to clarify afterwards, feel free to like type in your questions there, and I'll try and figure out how to pull that up and go through your guys' questions as we go through all this. Okay. So first one is Slim, the drink freak of the plexus, because, you know, why not be cute about stuff? So one of the big things that it professes is the chlorogenic acid, which we all know. Some people get confused, just FYI, they will get confused that it's caffeine. And it's not caffeine. It acts very differently from caffeine. So this slide is an overview of how caffeine works. Caffeine actually binds to the same receptor as adenosine in the synapse here, and inhibits the pathway that allows you to go to sleep. So it keeps you awake, keeps you going, and blocks normal channels. Whereas if adenosine was there, it opens the channels and lets you fall into a normal sleep. Overstimulation of this can become very, very, very bad, which is why, like, certain coffee restaurants, like, or coffee shops, kind of try and put a restriction, or might have a personal restriction on how many shots of espresso you can actually get in a drink. In Slim, there is a very, very small amount of naturally occurring caffeine. It's about 1 cup of decaf coffee. I actually had to argue this point with my OB, who saw caffeine in it and is like, nope. And I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. If you do the percent like composition and look at it, it's actually very, very little. Very, very little. And so, like, you being pregnant, like, you can drink as much decaf coffee kind of as you want. I mean, eventually you're going to pee up a storm, but you can. So caffeine, not chlorogenic acid. Sorry if I'm scatterbrained. Remember, 37 weeks pregnant today, just FYI. So caffeine works differently than chlorogenic acid. So try not to confuse them. People might get like a little weird because chlorogenic acid is similar in chemical makeup-ish, but it acts very differently. It does not bind to this chemical synapse. So these receptors that caffeine binds to, chlorogenic acid does not, which is good. What it does do, and we kind of all have seen like this like breakdown of what it does, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, anti-carcinogenic. It acts as a, sorry, the cat box is going apparently. It acts as a brain fart. It stimulates certain pathways that target malicious cells or other chemicals that are not good in your body, and helps your body fight against it, which a lot of the stuff in Plexus products does that, which is great. I'll get more into the blood pressure and the lipid stuff in a little bit. And then chlorogenic acid, they've done a lot of research recently about how it works and the ways in which it works, and it's actually been shown to work very similar to a very effective type 2 diabetes drug, metformin, and is being looked at more as a natural alternative to this synthesized drug for type 2 diabetes treatment. So chlorogenic acid, how it works is the low density lipoprotein is like your bad cholesterol, if you didn't know that. It actually prevents its oxidation, which causes it to build up and block up stuff and things like that, which your body will naturally kind of do it if it's in too high of concentration. And so the chlorogenic acid stimulates pathways that prevent this oxidation and allow your body to process it and get rid of it, so it doesn't like store anywhere. So it activates the fat metabolism and inhibits the fat absorption, so you end up purging it from your system. And then it also works to stimulate the pathways for insulin signaling to allow glucose uptake into your cells. Okay, so then the new Slim has the xylooligosaccharide. It is a sugar, however, you can't digest it, and so you may get people who are like, wait, isn't that kind of like what artificial sweeteners are? Sugars you can't digest, which is why they're 0 calories? Kind of, except that the bad, like, artificial sweeteners that we hear about, the pink sugar, I never remember their names, aspartame or whatever, those actually feed malicious bacteria that tend to accumulate in your intestine and cause them to flourish. However, some of the bad bacteria that might accumulate in your gut normally don't take this one in. And so it actually feeds more so the good bacteria that you want to flourish in your intestinal tract. And so that's the lactobacillus, the various forms of it. Doesn't sound familiar. It should, because it's in ProBio and in the vital biome. So is Bifidobacterium, a couple different species. And so that's good. So your Slim is actually helping to increase the effectiveness of your probiotics, making them even more effective. So yippee, like better health, happier gut, poop happy, absorb your nutrients better. Like I'm going to get into that with Akkermansia in a minute. When you feed the right stuff, it works better, which keeps your systems, cleaner and allows the absorption of nutrients you need, like things in X Factor or foods you eat, absorb better, and so you get more bang for your buck. Akkermansia is a mediator in our digestive system, so it helps move things through things and has been shown to prevent diabetes, obesity, and inflammation. So here's a fancy picture. Looks all sorts of awesome and very scientific, which it's relevant, but hey, science, yay. So it regulates the mucus lining, which is this part right here, of your intestines and colon. So it prevents it from getting too goopy and like large, but also allows it to remain a good thin layer to protect these cells right here. Right, so it's the mediator, right? It allows access into these cells by only certain bacteria or other microorganisms. And so, and prevents like the bad microorganisms from getting to it as well. So it allows various things to access these cells that are along here and transport in things that you need. This is tied into like glucose uptake, hormone signaling. You see a lot of posts about how all of your serotonin, or a big portion of your serotonin, is made in the gut. Well, it's also regulated by your gut through the little dudes like Akkermansia, right? By allowing access in and out through signals to make those things, and then escorting them or allowing them to be escorted back through this membrane into the bloodstream so then it can go do happy things in your brain. It also helps your immune system to mount an attack. So against bad bacteria, against viruses, also against other miscommunications within your body, which is how some like normal diseases happen. Or, well, like I would say autoimmune would be one maybe, and things like that. So it helps your body to regulate itself a lot because a lot of stuff is made in your intestinal tract, and so your intestinal tract has to talk to your brain and everything else, and it does that a lot of the times through your bloodstream. And so it's got to be able to talk, but you don't want all the bad talk getting in there, because then it just makes everything depressed, both literally and figuratively, if you think about it. And so that leads to a happy gut. Woo-woo. Okay. And then chromium. Woo. This was a little bit of a nerd out. This is a lot of stuff here. It's a lot of stuff. What you should notice is where chromium is. This is the element symbol for chromium. It acts as a cofactor, binding to all kinds of wonderful enzymes that do awesome, amazing things in your body, right? So because it's involved in so many different places, it is very important. And when you have a large amount of it, it means your body is better able to use it as a signal to get the job done. And notice it is heavily tied into insulin receptors. Some of the research I was doing showed that a significant increase in chromium in diabetic patients or people who had some sort of, and this isn't tied into plexus, just in general, chromium, some sort of chromium supplement in diabetic and other patients or other people with some sort of glucose maluptake. So they have a hard time getting glucose to process. Disorder, so people who have a hard time metabolizing glucose, either because they're diabetic or whatever, adding chromium, some sort of chromium supplement in, significantly increase their ability to metabolize and utilize glucose in a productive way, rather than getting sick or storing it as fat or whatever. they were able to use it. Their bodies were able to use it, emphasizing the fact that chromium is essential to good glucose use in the body. It's also associated with the reducing inflammation because it binds to an active site on other enzymes and prevents them from signaling that something's wrong, which not necessarily is wrong. It's just something in your system's overactive and causing inflammation. The AMPK glucose uptake right here, right? So that's tied into the cellular energy homeostasis, which means maintaining a balanced energy in your cell. And if your cells have balanced energies, or like the energy within your cell is balanced and functioning properly, and you don't have a deficit, that means that you don't have a deficit of energy. Your whole body is functioning better, including your brain. And so you have a feeling of more energy without a horrible crash, which is great. And it's also been shown, and I can't remember exactly what it was doing with cardiac muscle function, but I'm assuming it's also acting as a cofactor there, because a lot of what I was reading says that chromium is a cofactor. It binds to a site of a lot of enzymes and makes them work better, or in some cases prevents them from working. There we go. Okay, so that wraps up Slim. The rest will go a little bit faster because I only picked one aspect out of the rest. Nerded out a bit on triplex because that was fun. Or the plexus. Slim, because I can talk today. So a lot of people talk about Probio 5 and its probiotics, the good bacteria in it. And I'm like, but it's so different than all the other probiotics on the market because it has a whole bunch of proteases, things that break up bad stuff in your gut. So you have an actual protease, which is just a mixture of different things that break down random assortments of proteins and peptides that are put out by bad bacteria, right? So that's great because you don't want to have an accumulation of that, because it tends to lead to bowel distress, funky poop. Sorry, talk dirty. Chitinase, it breaks down and dissolves chitin. Okay, what's chitin? It is part of the exoskeleton found in a lot of fungi, especially like yeast or like the kind that you really don't want growing in your digestive tract. The ones that usually are growing in your digestive tract tend to have a more malleable cell wall. So the ones that tend to live longer and cause more trouble tend to have things like chitinase or chitin in it, or cellulose, right? So cellulose is in the cell walls of some bacteria, especially malicious bacteria, tend to have more cellulose, and having a cellulase in there breaks that down. And then serrapeptase breaks down proteins, and it's also been associated with pain relief and reducing inflammation and mucus, probably because the proteins that it breaks down, and this was just like a suggestion by some of the couple of research articles I was reading, that the proteins it breaks down are actually what are causing the pain, the inflammation, and the mucus. So yay for serrapeptase. So like the probiotic, the good bacteria are great, but what really makes Probio 5 stand out from all the other probiotics on the market is not just its bacteria that it's using, it's the digestive enzymes that it's employing to target the enemies of the good bacteria that you're trying to put into your system. Leading probiotics, and actually went through and like did a couple like searches for top probiotics of the past couple years. They don't have these listed on their nutrition labels or their supplement labels. They don't have any of them. They have a whole poop ton of bacteria, like billions and billions of bacterial counts, but nothing to get rid of the bad bacteria that and yeast that are, well, fungi that are like flourishing in your intestines. So it's kind of like I'm putting some good stuff in there, but I'm not doing anything to flush it out. And that's not going to be beneficial. It's just going to be very expensive. So when I was looking at these, talking about when Sarah was trying to get me hooked on Plexus, didn't take much, I guess. But when I was looking at the triplex and I looked at ProBio, and I saw that it had this, I'm like, oh, it actually wants to make the things that I'm putting into my body flourish by getting rid of what might prevent them or cause them harm. So this was what made me very happy about ProBio 5. BioCleanse. Woo. And my favorite part, so BioCleanse has two different things in it. It has the vitamin C, ascorbic acid, and it's actually as ascorbic acid. And if somebody's like, but that's kind of acidic. Wait, the magnesium's there too. Okay, magnesium comes in a magnesium hydroxide, which is actually slightly basic. And if you read the label, you also notice that there's sodium bicarbonate in there, which is baking soda basically, which acts as a buffer to prevent any weird pH imbalance. So that's why the baking soda is there. However, magnesium is amazing. Just like chromium is involved in a whole bunch of processes as like a cofactor, so is magnesium, except that it is so much more. It helps to oxygenate the blood by facilitating the Sarah, do you want me to get rid of my little circles? It helps to oxygenate the blood by facilitating the production of hemoglobin. There were several studies that I was reading in like medical articles and journals that said that sometimes people who keep taking iron supplements but are still anemic, it's usually not because of iron deficiency. It's because of magnesium deficiency, because magnesium binds to ribosomes to help make the protein that then becomes hemoglobin. And so if you can't make the base set protein that then will bind the iron to make your hemoglobin, you don't have a very easy way to facilitate the transport of oxygen. And so you really, really, really have to make sure you're getting that magnesium in there. And actually magnesium for like the pooping benefits is all the leftover magnesium that your system doesn't use. It works with the muscles in your digestive tract to help them relax by binding to it and then contract again to help make those muscles push and get your waste out of your body. I don't know if you guys can see me. I'm doing weird hand motions. Sorry. So it's been associated with things related to the heart, with skeletal muscle, both issues and benefits. because of how it binds to, I think it's called actin, actinin. It's been a while since I've been in biochemistry, I'm sorry. But it binds to various sites in your muscle to help facilitate that contract and release of your muscles. Because the normal state for your muscles is to be contracted. Like without doing anything, muscles are tight. It actually takes energy and binding of certain things like magnesium, and there's others, to cause it to release, which is also why it's very important for your bowel function, because you have to like relax those muscles as well to allow things to kind of flow. But it's always an excess. And so that's why when you guys are like getting people started on the triplex and you're like, okay, start with one BioCleanse and then we'll work you up slowly to whatever you need in your diet, because it varies person to person. And so like you want to be pooping normal 2 to 3 times a day. And you don't want to have to like say, try to do 4 right away. And like, then it's not the business. Because you have to work them up, because everybody's body is different and everybody's like where they're at in their magnesium level within their body is different because their diets are different. So yeah, and so the oxygenation, because it helps to produce hemoglobin, and then tied into muscle function as well as improved bowel function because of that muscle release and contract mechanism. Okay, I think I hit that. And then X Factor Plus. I think I've just finished my first full bottle of X Factor, and I'm on my second one, X Factor Plus. And it's a good thing. On Amber's site, she posted something about like very bright yellow pee. And I'm like, well, that kind of explains it. And then I looked at the bottle. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of riboflavin in here. No wonder I got some colorful stuff. The smell of your pee will also tell you if you are wasting stuff. So if your pee is like very colorful, hopefully yellow colorful. If it's not yellow colorful, then there's something wrong. Go to the doctor. But if it's like colorful and smelly, you're wasting your money. And that was one of the issues I had with supplements, especially vitamins, and why it even took me a while to get on the X Factor train, period. But then I talked to a doctor friend who sent me to some articles about aloe, and I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I didn't have smelly pee. My kidneys are happy. They are not mad at me, unless my child starts playing soccer with them, the one that's incubating. So yay for X Factor Plus, it actually works. Just like if your pee starts to smell funny, you need to increase your water uptake, FYI. So we're going to focus on the polyphenols because it's something kind of unique to X Factor in addition to its aloe. And this is part of the proprietary blend, I think. I have my bottle here. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's part of the proprietary blend with the grapeseed extract. And so polyphenols are found in a lot of fruits and veggies, especially like berries, some nuts. They're found in wines. Yay, wine. I might be missing it. And it's actually tied into cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and neurodegenerative diseases. But in a positive way. It actually has been shown to reverse. Sorry, I've got hiccups and stuff now. Reverse a lot of these and to help heal the body. So instead of working directly on diseased tissues as an antioxidant, it works with your body's already existing checks and balances to target diseased cells or diseased causing compounds to process them, make them benign, and get them out of your system. So it works with natural, like your body, what it has already as like a kill the bad guy thing, and gets rid of it. Sorry, I'm trying to, like, I'm so tired. It joins also with other pathways to amplify responses to mutations or things like that. I was reading that it was tied into a couple of gene checking enzymes. Like when your cell duplicates itself, there's a couple enzymes that go through and make sure that everything lines up and it's good. Well, when those miss something, you end up with a mutated cell. Polyphenols actually end up helping those checks work better and do more checks, usually by amplifying that response. In healthy tissues, so those are mostly for like diseased tissues. In healthy systems, polyphenols facilitate normal checks and balances and make sure that they're actually happening, because sometimes they don't, sometimes it gets skipped, but they bind and help signal that things need to keep getting checked, and your body uses them to help those processes along. And vital biome. So there's 8 strains of beneficial bacteria, which across the board, those 8 strains were, like, in my research, like, sung glorious praises. I focused on, I think I have 5 here, just because, like, there was, like, so much and I needed to narrow it down. Some of the things we've been hearing is how vital biome is such a great mood enhancer. Well, how does that happen? Separate research through the National Health Institute and a couple others, those journals have been for the past few years putting out links for all of these bacteria and how they are tied into boosting your emotional state and creating a sense of balance through your whole body. The first 2, Lactobacillus helveticus and Bifidobacterium longo, both were linked to anti-anxiety benefits. Part of that is how they interact with your intestinal tract and help to facilitate the uptake of certain hormones. They also make sure to keep, they work with Akkermansia to help keep that mucus lining in balance and prevent the buildup of bad bacteria. Bacillus coagulans has been used across the board to treat a lot of gastrointestinal issues. A lot of probiotics put just this in there just to help with the whole pooping scenario. It also works to increase immune system effectiveness, mostly because a lot of your immune system is regulated and processed through your gastrointestinal tract, like a lot of it. And so you have to have good stuff in there in order to make the signals work, to make to get the right communication into your bloodstream and mount a correct immune response. And then Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bifidobacterium lactis. There was another Bifidobacterium lactis 04 that's also on the vital biome. Its linkages are more towards mental health stability. So there was another one that was BI04 on the vital biome. So it's got 2 different strains, and how they interact is slightly different, to where this one focuses on the digestive aspect, and the alternate one, and that does not look like a 4. This one focused towards, I think, more the maintaining the emotional stability and balance. Also, we all know, like, if we are like having normal bowel movements, we tend to be less stressed about it and less stressed in life, or at least that's my experience. Definitely since I started Plexus. And so helps to feed that whole overall system of health. A lot of these were tied into mood, improvement in mood, and reduction in mood disorders, which makes sense because a lot of that is regulated and signaled through your intestinal tract. And so in addition to that, they also help to reduce the gastrointestinal distress. And I think, oh, hey. And so then this idea of how the gut links to the brain, which I've kind of already touched on, it regulates and produces various signals, right? And so that mucus lining has to be in balance so that way they can get across. And you have to have the right bacteria to help facilitate them getting across into your bloodstream. And so I just like the picture. Sorry, I thought it was adorable and kind of made sense. So by maintaining the flora in your gut and keeping your lining clean, signal molecules can get through better and therefore work better and talk to your brain better. And so then your brain can then better regulate the whole system of your body. These beneficial bacteria, especially if you have the right ones and are feeding them properly, like with the new Slim and the oligosaccharide, the xylo-oligosaccharide, it allows them to better maintain that lining and then allow signals to pass. Harmful microflora, both bacteria and fungi, tend to accumulate on these linings, especially if we tend to eat crap or put crap in. You don't really get crap out, but if anybody got the pun, never mind. They tend to gunk up the lining of your intestine and prevent those signals, which then you don't get the signals across into the bloodstream. Your brain starts to not feel as connected to the rest of your body. It hits a depression mode, and then your whole body starts to feel it. So keep your gut happy. Woo! Does that mean I can stop the share thing? I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't completely know what I'm doing either. So thank you so much, Danielle. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I was like taking screenshots and writing notes, and I've had to go to the bathroom for a long time, but I didn't want to miss anything, so I just wait. But my goodness, you are so smart, and the amount of research you've done is just incredible, and we're all just so lucky to get all of it condensed, and that you've just put so much work into this. So thank you so much. And then before we go, because I feel like it's worth going into, I want you to kind of tell your story with the products. You kind of, I don't know, you kind of like hinted at some things, but it's just so good that I just want everybody to hear it. So before we go.
Is there a way, I'm trying to see can you guys see me at all? I don't know.
If you
pause share, resume?
Yeah, try that, or maybe stop share, and we can still see you. Your face isn't. like on the whole skirt.
There we go. Hey, I figured it out. There's a right button.
Yeah, you're more pro at this than I am.
I was just clicking a whole bunch of things, so that was special. When Sarah contacted me, I remember she was like, "Hey, you're a teacher. Do you need more energy? I have this great stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, energy, yippee. That'd be great, but whatever." And she was kind of going over into some of the things and kind of hinted at like normal bowel movements. And I'm like, "Wait, what? There's a way to poop normal and it'll help me?" I was having some pretty bad issues. I was in my second year of teaching and really starting to stress and sweat about like maintaining a normal like teaching and like struggling with like gastrointestinal distress that would just randomly pop up and be like, "Oh God, I gotta go to the bathroom and now I feel sicker than a dog." And so I like asked her about it. I'm like, "Could it help me with this issue I have?" And Sarah's like, "Yeah, it's great. That's like what BioCleanse does." And Slim helps do that a little bit. And then the probiotic like really gets your gut in check. And so she's like, "I'm having a like sip and see thing. You should come and like listen." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. We'll see." So I went and did like some of my own research on the back end, a lot of research. Sorry, Sarah, I don't trust you.
I'm glad you did.
And I did a lot of research and like not on the product because you can't always tell because people will bash the product just because they don't like MLMs or whatever, or the color pink, who knows. So I went through and looked at the ingredients and researched those, and I'm like, wow, they actually like put stuff that works in their product. Like went and researched the delayed release capsule on the probio, and I'm like, why doesn't everybody do? Well, it's a little bit expensive to do that time. It takes a lot of research and it's kind of patented. And so they'd have to figure out a different way. But like, why doesn't everybody do this? Like, maybe I'll give it a shot. So I started like looking at the prices and I'm like, did the money math in my head, and you save about $300 to $400 on the old price system a little over a year ago, going ambassador versus preferred. And I'm like, well, I could probably do that. Well, let's sit in this sip and see. Sarah was pretty much sold before that sip and see. I just wanted to see some stuff. And so I decided to jump on board and got my products. That first week, I had the most magnificent poop of my life. It was amazing. I called my mom and I told her I just pooped like the best poop of my life. It was great. The headaches were not the business with Slim because I did get the headaches and then I had to up my water intake. But like, and I'm not very good at dieting at all. The only time I actually dieted in my life was when I was pregnant with my first son. Because I was swelling so bad. And this was about 2.5 years or so before I hopped on Plexus. Thanks, Alyssa. You should see me in the classroom. It's hilarious. And I was swelling really bad. They did a lot of testing to make sure it wasn't preeclampsia. My blood pressure was pretty normal, but like, then I had like excessive weight gain, like over 50 pounds by the end, close to 60, and it was bad. And I was watching what I ate every time. I was watching my salt intake. I was making sure I was getting all the water. I had never eaten so many fruits and vegetables in my life. I was still having some dietary distress. It was not fun. And it was a hard pregnancy in that aspect. I was also student teaching. which may not have been the best idea because I also went off caffeine, and just for the health of the baby and all that. And so it was definitely, I don't teach bio, Krista. But thank you. It was definitely a struggle. And then a little over a year ago, I jumped on the Plexus train and started to really see some like results in my health. The scale wasn't talking as much, but like family was noticing us slimming down, still trying to convince them that they should hop on the Plexus train, but whatever. That's their choice. Then I got pregnant again right around Christmas, right after Christmas time. We decided to start trying at Christmas time, and got pregnant real quick right away. And I argued with my OB about whether or not they had approved Mega X, X Factor, and ProBio and BioCleanse. They had okayed those 4, but they weren't so sold on the Slim. And I'm like, let's talk about this because I really don't want to give it up. I was happy that they okayed the ProBio, but it wasn't like, I'm like, ugh. And I pretty much told her, I'm like, I've done my math. I know like it's percent composition. I've done the research, and I know that seriously, Kat. I know that it's with that the caffeine was the only thing she did not approve of, that the caffeine was within the normal amount. And true story, caffeine is only linked to low birth weight babies. I do not have a problem with having smaller babies. It means they will be closer to normal size. Because my husband is 6'5", and he is the shortest male of his like family, dad, and he's one of 3 boys. And then his sister is just a hair taller, I think, than 6 feet. So they're giants. And then I'm here 5'4" and a midget, according to them. Vertically challenged, we call it. And so I was like, truth be told, like caffeine is not going to make a difference on the size of this child. If nothing else, it means I'll be more likely to have my VBAC rather than less likely. So she eventually said, okay. And we went back and forth a little bit. And so now in this current stage of my pregnancy, I do struggle with, because it's a big baby and we have hereditary family tendon issues, with some pelvic distress, because there's a big baby sitting on my pelvic bone and it's not being held together very well because of relaxin. Makes your tendons super stretchy. And then my tendons are also already super stretchy. And so like I have struggles with that a little bit. I had it a little bit with my first one, but second one tends to make everything worse. But I'm at 26 pounds gained, which is about half of where I am right now with my last pregnancy. So yay. The baby is actually measuring bigger than my first. Lord preserve me. And so he's measuring bigger. I have had minimal swelling right now because it's hot, although I live in Concord, which is close to San Francisco, but not close enough to be San Francisco weather, but much better than Merced or Fresno, thank God. But like the swelling has been a lot less, and I haven't had any edema when I do swell. And yay, Alyssa, we should meet up. Sorry, she's from Antioch. I have a neighbor. Sorry. And yeah, it's been really, really good. I just finished, it's hilarious. I just finished my last bag of old Slim. And so I can finally start my new Slim. So I'm like promoting all this Slim because I know the research, and like I've tried it. It tastes amazing. But like I want to start my new Slim. I want to see it. I want to taste it. But so yeah, I'm imagining when I have this baby, and I'm like, you know what? I might actually quickly go back to my baby weight, like pre-baby weight. And I wonder if I'll go back to pre-baby weight, because I was on the tinier side when I met Sarah. And definitely am not on the tinier side now, or like when I started Plexus. So,
well, how much weight and how many sizes did you?
I had, by the time
obviously before pregnancy.
before pregnancy, right? So the first 6 months, I didn't do the inch count because I was not smart that way. I had lost a little over 10 pounds, and I had gone down. I was getting really comfortable in 10s. I could still fit into 8s, depending on the brand, but I was getting really comfortable in 10s. I had gone down to 6s for the most part. By the time I hit December last year, and woo, baby. I've also like not lost any like size inching whatever in the cup size either, which is interesting. My mom warned me that if I tried to lose weight, it probably wouldn't happen. Like it'd probably still be there. I'm like, oh, that's nice. But yeah, although I think a lot of that weight loss was just excess poop that had built up for years and years.
Might have been. Well, I have just loved watching your journey. And of course, I'm so glad that you did your own research and didn't take my word for it. So if anybody has any questions, I know we've kind of been chatting a little bit already, but you can feel free to unmute yourself or stick them in the chat, and if not, we can just call it a night. I know that.
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead. Alyssa,
I would like to know. Yeah, I would like to know a little bit more about X Factor and the aloe. Just because I haven't done a whole lot of research. I've done a little bit on vitamins and how I guess there's been a lot of studies done on like vitamin E, for instance, and how it actually takes from your body to digest it. And I'm just kind of curious, Danielle, I'm not sure if you know much about vitamins or if you can explain more about that.
So I've had the talk with my actual doctor, not my OB, my doctor, who actually does a shot of aloe, like juice or something. Like I guess you can buy it in a jug. Actually, you can. I went to the store after talking to her and found it on the shelf because I'm like, you can do that? Like actually buy it? Apparently you can. That is disgusting. But you can buy aloe in a jug and take it. And I guess a lot of doctors, because she said she is not the only one who does it, like buy a jug, pour a shot, and chug it with their vitamins in the morning. Because I guess it acts as a chaperone in your, so chaperone like binds to vitamins and whatnot, or some sort of molecule and escorts it across a membrane. And so I guess it acts as and I can do a future product training and make a note and make sure I get into the nitty gritty, and escorts it across. And so by adding aloe, and I don't think it's just the vitamin E, I think it's probably a different aspect of aloe. that helped escort it across. And I'm not entirely sure, just FYI, not entirely sure. But I know it acts more as a chaperone, and I would have to look into that.
I've heard it explained that, like, basically aloe knows the zip code to your body, and so it knows kind of like where things need to go and gets those things there. Obviously, I'm not nearly as smart as Danielle, but that's how I've heard it explained, and it kind of made sense to me that it just like knows your body and knows where things are supposed to go. Krista says like a mail carrier. Yeah. I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah. You know what? It would be fantastic if you could in the future do a product on, like, you know, share some of your superb knowledge on vitamins. I think that would be, for me anyways, even if you just sent me, because I love to know
on Facebook,
why things work.
If you find me on Facebook, I tend to nerd out on occasion. And since I have in a few weeks like leave coming up because there's going to be a new member joining us soon, if you find me on Facebook and friend me, and I usually tend to nerd out and post random blobs like that as well. But yeah, if we remember Sarah and we decide to do another one of these in a few months, or a couple months at least, then yeah, I can add that in. I was actually asking Sarah earlier, like yesterday or the day before, I can't remember, like, hey, there's all this great stuff about X Factor Plus. We need to pick one because holy fart tard, there's a lot of stuff to get into. And she's like, through this, and I'm like, well, I think you said polyphenols first. And I'm like, well, we'll do that. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there is just so much good stuff. The aloe, the B vitamins.
Well, even how they crafted and put together the compounds for the vitamins or the mineral supplements as well, they looked at the most bioavailable and also partnered it with something that was pretty soluble, or try to get it to uptake. That's why, like in BioCleanse, you don't see the magnesium ascorbate, which you can get. It's magnesium and vitamin C bound together, but it's very insoluble and not bioavailable as well. And so your body won't absorb it as well as, say, magnesium hydroxide, which is pretty, like, it's not like super soluble, which you don't want because, like, that's too much hydroxide going on in your tummy, and you'll have some burping and gas, and that's not happy joy stuff. But it's bioavailable enough to get it into your system, and so then it takes a little bit of time and is absorbed as it goes through your intestinal tract, which then is great for your intestinal tract because then there's magnesium in abundance for it to just kind of help make your muscles there go, woo! If that makes sense.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. I know we all appreciate it a ton, and I've made a mental note that you also need to make a video of your pregnancy testimony.
Oh.
And how you argued with your OB and post that on my team page. So.
Okay. Sure. I've done the side-by-sides. I remember I sent you side-by-sides of, like, where I was last pregnancy and where I was, like, this pregnancy, just of, like, my face. And oh my gosh, I was chunky monkey last time. Like,
it's just crazy. Half the weight is just amazing. It's amazing.
It feels amazing too.
I bet. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again very much, and thank Vernon too for.
He's asleep.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And Kaden, I think, was in bed by the time all of this went down.
Oh, okay. Well, you guys have a good weekend. And I know Danielle would be happy to connect with you guys on Facebook, so don't hesitate to send her a friend request.
And before you ask, I'm just a normal ambassador. So, like, I am not a salesperson, obviously.
You're awesome. Well, thank you again, and you guys all have a great weekend. Hopefully this, you've been able to grab a few things that really made sense to you. And I more than anything, like I said before, I just hope that your belief has been strengthened just in our products, because they really are just incredible. So you guys all have a good night. Thank you guys so much.